Hey, good morning, church, and welcome to Walk in Wisdom. Proverbs 21 is the chapter we'll be in today. Appreciate you guys watching these and walking through the book of Proverbs with us. If you haven't been reading along, you can always go back and watch the videos and catch up and read through. Book of Proverbs has a lot of good nuggets for us, a lot of things for us to learn from. So in chapter 21 has an interesting theme to it, but there was one big theme that I pulled out of it that we'll go through that kind of that's kind of the heart of this whole chapter, I feel. But let me read a couple of these verses to you that I really liked. So it starts out, it says, "The king's heart is a stream of water in the hand of the Lord. He turns it wherever he wills. Every way of a man is right in his own eyes, but the Lord weighs the heart. To do righteousness and justice is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice." So that's the first three verses there. So it starts out by talking about the heart. The king's heart is a stream of water in the hand of the Lord, and he turns it wherever he wills. So back in these days, they would use these different things to basically push the streams of water to their land where they needed it, to the desired location. So for them, this would have really resonated with them and given them, imagery of the water being redirected and being guided certain ways, just like they would do with the water. So as believers, obviously, the place we want to be is in a way where our hearts and our lives are being guided by God's hands, that He's able to, that we're malleable enough, we're teachable enough that He can guide us whichever way we need. It is interesting that it specifically says the heart. It doesn't say the knowledge or the brain or anything like that. It says the heart, that the very core of who we are is guided by God's hand. That's interesting to me because the rest of this passage really has a feel of what is your motive, what is your motivation behind the things that you do. It says that the way of the guilty is crooked, but the content or the conduct, sorry, of the pure is upright. So the way of the guilty is crooked, but the conduct of the pure is upright. It's very interesting as you go throughout this passage, and even in those first couple of verses we talked about, says that every way of a man is right in his own eyes, which we can all agree with, right? We think we're right most of the time. We think our ways and our process and the way to do things is right, but the Lord weighs our heart. He looks into our heart. He looks at the inside, at the core of who we are. It also says that the righteousness. To do righteousness and justice is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. So as we walk through this passage, and I could go through multiple verses over and over again about motives. So it talks about in here multiple times about the idea that God's looking at our hearts, looking at not what we do, but why we do what we do. So God is more about our motive. He's more about our hearts than He is about what we're doing. So it's not about our why, or it's not about our what, but it's about our why. God is way less concerned with our what and ultimately completely concerned with our why. So we can do, a lot of people out there can go through the right motions and do the right things in action, but it can still be a completely impure act that we're doing. So we can go out there and we can do and say all the right things, but what is our motive? What is our motive behind that? Because that is what shows us how pure that act actually is. Our act can be completely impure and completely wrong, even though we're doing the right thing, because our motives are in the wrong place. If you have kids, you know about this, because I know with my kids, this happens all the time, right? So you make a deal with them one time that, hey, you need to clean your room. If you do clean your room, I'll give you some screen time. Or if you do clean your room, I'll let you play a video game. If you do take your shower, then you can do these things. And so they do it, but the reason they're doing it is because they want that thing at the end. They want that screen time. They want that video game. They want that dessert or candy or whatever it is. And so then you'll see them randomly do these things. They'll go and clean their room or do the thing they're supposed to do. But then they'll come to you and be like, "Hey, I did this thing." But then what you realize is they didn't do it because they wanted to be nice. They didn't do it because it was the right thing to do. They did it because then their next thing out of their mouth is, "So can I play video games now? Can I watch TV? Can I do this? Can we go here? Can I get dessert? Can I get candy?" And if we're honest with ourselves, a lot of times that's our lives, right? We go through and we do the right action because we want something. But God's not looking for that. God's looking for a pure heart, for someone that will do the right actions because it's the right thing to do, that'll do the right thing out of the love for people, out of the love for God. So what this passage really gives me is motive is everything. It doesn't matter what you do if your why isn't right. So as you go throughout your week, as you contemplate these verses and these chapters that we go through, let's think about our motive. Let's think about our why. Is your why in the right place? Because if it's not, your what doesn't matter. So love you guys. Remember that your why matters. Remember that your motive matters. And look forward to seeing you all on Sunday morning.